The chapter 7 is dedicated to the NanoEdge AI Studio import from file feature. So in this chapter, we will still use the same data logger that we defined in chapter 5, but we will, instead of directly importing the signal, the user signal to the NanoEdge AI Studio, we will first store it in a file where we can rework it if we want, or concatenate several signals from several logging sessions, and finally import it in the NanoEdge AI Studio. The requisite for this chapter is still the ST-eval board, the CubeIDE project from the chapter 5, since we will have to do some slight modifications, the NanoEdge Studio version 3.0.1, as well as a serial port listener. We will use TeraTerm, but Termite is also another RS-232 terminal that can be used, and there are several others. And we will also need a text editor that is able to show all the characters, even non-printable ones, to see if the file is properly formatted. We will use Notepad++ in this case. All the links are in the presentation from the materials section. Then let's load the TeraTerm window, select the proper serial port, and adapt the serial port settings to set the right speed. So for the moment we are logging only the waiting message. So I will first clear the buffer and clear the screen, and then launch the logging. So let's wait about 20 lines. That should be okay, and then we can disconnect. So the board is still logging the signal, but we are not capturing it anymore. And we will then select all and copy. This is one way to do it, of course. So then I will use the Notepad++, so it's a regular text editor, to paste a signal. But what you can see here is that there is some spaces information, and this is due to the TeraTerm window, the TeraTerm default settings, and we will have to change them. Otherwise, we'll have to rework this text file. So that's important. So you see first the waiting message. So this will have to be removed anyway. But then the first line is fine. If I go to the last line, it's okay. But then, yes, you have some spurious space character. To remove that, I will need to go, so I will reconnect to the board and change in the setup terminal window. So this is specific to TeraTerm. You may face the same issue with Termite or with another. So the new line is created only when I receive line feed. So that's one way to do it. Another way would be to modify our data logger program, so that at the end of each logging line, each signal logging will put not only \n character like this, but also a return, carriage return. So let's modify from the TeraTerm. So now the signal is different. So let's wait a bit. Okay, I will disconnect, select all, copy. So let's remove everything from this file and paste. So now you can see the first information that I will remove. So press user. This information is not needed. It has been kept in the TeraTerm buffer. And I will remove also the first data logging that I did that contains some spurious space characters that will not be understood by the NanoEdge AI Studio. So now I have each line properly set. Maybe not this one. This one may be incomplete. That can happen during the user transmission. But at least I have several lines that are okay. So let's save this file and we will call it abnormal. And let's see what NanoEdge says about it. So I will go to the abnormal signal now and add a signal using the from file option. So select the file, the abnormal.txt, and press the continue button. Normally, the NanoEdge Studio will parse the file, searching for values and new line character. And we can see here that there is an issue on the line 3, as we saw. There are missing characters. So maybe these ones were not properly sent by the USART, through USART. Some data were missed, were lost. So that's one inconvenience. So that's why it is very important to set up a stable and constant transmission way between the board and the file and the actual log. So this is to show you how to use text input in NanoEdge. It is not the definite way, the ultimate way to do it. It's just a quick way to show you how to input files. But then these files will need to be properly formatted. So you can see that here I cannot remove a line directly, so I need to edit the file instead. So I go back to the Notepad++. I see that this line is incomplete. So I just remove it. It's just one signal over 30 signals, so it should be okay. So back in NanoEdge AI Studio, so the parsing occurs again. And so the first 20 lines are fine. So I will not import this data because I want to import abnormal data. So I will do a capture again with the proper configuration of Teraterm. But this time I will shake a little the board to have some abnormal signals. So let's go back to Teraterm. Let's clear the buffer and reconnect. But before I reconnect, I will take my board with my hand. So now let's shake the board during the capture. So this will be my abnormal signal. It's quite a violent one for such sensible accelerometers, but it will do the job. So I will now disconnect. And I can again select all, copy the data. I will remove everything from this file and paste. So I can have a quick look at the data. So I can see that there are some lonely new line characters. And I can see that I have several lines that are not long enough. But in fact, it's not the case. It's just because the value are changing. And so the lines, the length of the lines just differ because the value are changing. So let's see what the NanoEdge AI Studio thinks about these signals. So I will save it and import again in NanoEdge AI Studio. So from file, select file, abnormal file. So we can see here that the lines are perfectly formatted. We have the expected number of samples per line on all lines. Otherwise, I would have some message here telling me that some lines are incomplete. So I can import these files, these signals. And that's it. So now you know how to import signals from file using the NanoEdge AI Studio. And this mode is very convenient when you want to gather several signals in the same file while they've been captured separately. Remember that in an input file full of signals, the signals are all independent, but they are representing the same abnormal state or regular state or class 1 state, depending on the project. So they represent the same physical phenomenon, but they are independent. So if I capture some signals one day and some others the day after, but in the same state of the system, they can be gathered in the same file. So then you will have to process this text file using maybe some Python scripts, but this is out of the scope of the NanoEdge AI Studio and of this MOOC. So we will now go to the next chapter. We have some regular signals, some abnormal signals, and we will see now how to benchmark quickly this library, because it will be quite a simple use case, and deploy it, develop the application that will do the inference on what is captured from the signal, from the sensor, directly on the board. This is the end of this chapter. You may now proceed to the final chapter of this MOOC.